Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we're going to focus on the 11th anniversary, celebrating the 11th anniversary of the June 30th revolution, which took place in 2013, as well as to be dissecting the speech of His Excellency President Abdel al-Sisi that took place today, speaking about the future of the country, turning it into a turning point, the June 30th revolution, how it will be affecting the future and how it affected the past 11 years as well. We'll be having more details, of course, during the course of the episode, but we'll be starting straight away with the main top stories for today. As I mentioned, the first one will be dissecting the speech of His Excellency President Abdel al-Sisi, as President al-Sisi addressed the nation on the 11th anniversary of the June 30th of 2013 revolution, shedding light on the turbulent regional situation and the challenges facing the region. In his speech on Sunday, President al-Sisi underscored that the commemoration of the revolution reaffirms the strengths of the Egyptians, their unwavering loyalty to their homeland, and their commitment to their Egyptian identity in overcoming the challenges. President al-Sisi said that 11 years ago, Egyptians proved themselves stronger than their enemies imagined and more resilient than those who thought they could harm our country with their black terrorism. He added that the Egyptians today have set the finest examples of determination, cohesion and the resolve to overcome the crises and turn them into opportunities and successes. The President said that on this precious commemoration, he renews his commitment and affirms that Egypt will never abandon its determination to overcome all the challenges. He emphasized that the June 30th revolution represented a defining moment, distinguishing the eternal Egyptian national consciousness. Sisi recalled how the Egyptians on this day expressed the unwavering dedication to protecting the homeland and reclaiming its resources, effectively ending a period of chaos and destruction. Despite the difficulties and the challenges faced, Egyptians have embarked on a path of progress, prosperity and goodness, as he added. The President highlighted the notable progress achieved since 2013. President al-Sisi commended the Egyptian people for the tireless efforts in defeating terrorism and laying the foundation for development. President al-Sisi emphasized the significant changes occurring in the region, particularly in the wake of the Israeli war on Gaza. He said while humanity's conscience has been absent and the international community has turned a blind eye to the tens of thousands of innocent victims displaced and affected, Egypt has been standing by the Palestinian people during the war. The President said that the Egyptian position has been noble, honorable and patriotic, and Egypt did not stay idle in providing relief to the Palestinian brothers with actions before words. Furthermore, he emphasized the Egyptian commitment to thwarting the attempts of forced displacement of the Palestinians, safeguarding the Egyptian national security and preserving the Palestinian cause. Addressing the price hikes, President al-Sisi reassured the Egyptians that the new government has a priority to ease the suffering. Al-Sisi addressed every Egyptian man and woman who endured the hardships of life and rising prices during the recent period in order to provide a good life for their children. The President stressed that he fully understands the extent of the Egyptians' suffering and assured them that the top priority for the new government is to alleviate the suffering, create more jobs and build a better future for all the honorable people of Egypt. He also emphasized that the state continues to work diligently day and night to modernize the factories, reclaim vast areas of desert land, and improve the healthcare and education to meet the needs of the Egyptian people. Moreover, the government has made significant investments in construction cities, roads, energy and irrigation networks, as well as establishing and developing the strategic ports and modern transportation lines. As for the second top story for today, Egypt's First Lady Intisar al-Sisi congratulated the Egyptian people on the 11th anniversary of the 2013 June 30th revolution in a social media post on Sunday. The First Lady commended the Egyptian people for their action in protecting their country and national identity during the revolution. She said, "I invite you all to draw the inspiration from the spirit of the June 30th revolution to confront all the challenges that we face." The June 30th revolution is commemorated as a national holiday. Following the revolution, Egypt underwent economic reforms, political shifts, and embarked on a relentless fight against terrorism, culminating in lasting peace and security for the nation. Up next, the main activities of His Excellency President Abdel al-Sisi over the past week, all in the upcoming report, so stay tuned.
Via his official page on Facebook and on the United Nations Public Service Day, President Abdel al-Sisi says he offers his salute and appreciation to all those working in the state's administrative apparatus and to all those who carry out the duties of their jobs with honor, earnestness and devotion. President Abdel al-Sisi receives General Mohamed, the General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense and Military Production. President al-Sisi takes part in the opening session of the Egypt-EU Investment Conference. President al-Sisi gives a speech at the opening session of the Egypt-EU Investment Conference. President Abdel al-Sisi receives Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, on the sidelines of the Egypt-EU Investment Conference held in Cairo. President al-Sisi and Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, attend the inauguration of the 2024 Egypt-EU Investment Conference held in Cairo. President al-Sisi and President of the European Commission take part in a roundtable meeting with the private sector.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. As I mentioned in the beginning that today we're celebrating the 11th anniversary of the June 30th revolution, which took place in 2013, which is a turning point in the history of Egypt. And the revolution is a point to be taking off at all levels, the political and the economic levels as well, for the benefit of the Egyptian citizen. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
11 years have passed since the glorious 30th of June revolution, but its events will remain engraved in the memory of Egyptians, and its results will shape the features of Egypt's future forever. The 30th of June revolution was a revolution to restore the identity of a nation, correct its course, and build a new modern republic. It is a revolution that embodied the greatness of Egypt, its history and civilization, and united all the spectra of its people and institutions to get Egypt out of the dark tunnel. This popular revolution was a turning point that brought the state to the right path, representing a success story and a role model that has a clear vision for the future, that aims to become one of the largest 30 economies in the world. A salute of pride and veneration to President Abdel al-Sisi, the symbol of the 30th of June revolution, who answered the people's call and sided with their free will. He said the country with a new vision which builds, reconstructs, develops and changes reality to build the new Egypt of which we are all proud. During the past 11 years, Egypt has faced the most difficult challenges. the 2011 and 2013 revolutions, coronavirus pandemic, Ukrainian-Russian war, Egyptian economy was able to withstand and even achieve high growth. Thanks to the successes of the June 30th revolution, which restored the spirit and strength of the Egyptian state, Egypt is able to overcome these challenges and complete its path to achieve Egypt Vision 2030 of growth, development and decent life.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Dr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thanks.
Anytime. Of course, we are celebrating the 11th anniversary of the June 30th revolution, which took place in 2013. In your opinion, on the economic and the political levels, what were the main achievements and gains by this revolution?
Well, that revolution came to be regarded as very much crucial and important. After long years of calamities, of tribulations, of difficulties, economic ones, political at times, and after the one-year reign of the Muslim Brotherhood, the so-called, dark year of reign. It was to be a very much difficult period, in which almost all the Egyptian people would collaborate with each other in such a way as to gain the achievements and to try to pass the tribulations of the previous dark year or pessimistic dark year of the Muslim Brotherhood. Before going into the gains and the achievements and the political ones, actually let me shed a little light on the sort of the period that was one of the darkest in the history of the Egyptian people, actually, throughout a long period of time. The people, that Muslim Brotherhood, that band group actually came with the intention of remaining for about 500 years, as it was to be propagated by their own late president, actually, intending to turn all the Egyptian theaters actually into militias, into struggling parties and tussles, and into sects and divisions, and create attempting every now and again to turn it into an Islamic state rather than an Egyptian state, based on tribulations and struggles and leniency towards the Muslim brothers, so to speak. Far from being so, intending every now and again to try to be very much, escalating and promoting those who are belonging to their own band group for the highest achievements and the highest prospects and, ranks in the Egyptian state. Immediately after the lapse of that very much pessimistic dark year, after a certain individual sort of call in his own, presidency, Excellency Mr. President Abdel, when he did ask almost all the people to collaborate and to try to start to say their own say about the whole situation and to react against all those oppressions and all these opposing forces, actually.
Yes, Doctor, we will be taking a quick break and we'll be returning once again to be speaking more about the June 30th revolution. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I am honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight, as I mentioned in the beginning, Dr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us tonight once again. We were speaking about the gains, the achievements of the June 30th revolution, but what does this represent for the Egyptians, especially after going through the bloody one-year reign of the terrorist Brotherhood organization?
Rightly so. You said it rightly, aptly done and aptly said, actually. The bloody year, the sort of year, that was propagating almost all, the aspects of terrorism, of bloodshed, of bloodiness of, assassination, of the act of sabotage, of demolishing churches and mosques and Al-Azhar Sharif, and to the extent of being, able to achieve one single individual entity as a state within itself, that is the Muslim Brotherhood, to the extent of negating almost all the other aspects of the society, all the levels and all the classes of the Egyptian people. That sort of bloody actually was immediately followed by a line of demarcation. That is the 30th or the 3rd June revolution of the 3rd of June, marking a new advance in an era within the history of the Egyptian people, free from the tribulations, and as I've just said before, the Adhan, at a sign, at an invitation on the part of His Own Excellency Mr. President Fattah Sisi, for almost all the Egyptians to come and say into this, and actually to say their own say about the whole revolution, about the whole evaluation of the situation, the way they would select in the near future. That's why almost more than 40 million of the Egyptian people came within the streets, asking, for the expiation for that sort of one calamity, for the one sort of pessimistic and dark, asking the late President Morsi actually to be away from the scene, from the power, from the presidential authority, and to try to leave it actually for almost all the Egyptians, because contrary to all the expectations of almost all the Egyptians, when he did come from day one, he did say and confess that he is a president for almost all the Egyptians. But a day after another, he seems to be far from being so, allocating and propagating a certain ideological belief, which is the existence and the supremacy and the sublimation of the Muslim Brotherhood figures, ascending, a large number of high posts and extensive ranks, and, ascending high delegate associations and profile intentions in the meantime. But the Egyptian people are very much resourceful and very much intelligent enough to the extent that they would be able to understand all these hidden agendas, as much as representing their own denial and rejection of his own existence within power, asking him through the rebellion group as being able to fill the applications of his own expel, right side by side with his own group from the presidential scene. Unfortunately, the previous group were very much bloody to the extent of that they would besiege the Ittihadiyya Palace, killing a large number of people, assassinating a large number of men of God, of Christians, of Muslims, of men of Al-Azhar, of churchmen, of priests, and of almost all innocent figures, just for the, the attempt to preserve their own existence within the palace and to ascend the social prestigious power, the presidential authority. But that was a very much short-lived one indeed, as I've just said, because the people are very much, the Egyptian people are very much interested in representing their own denial, their own rejection of their own existence within the presidential scene. And they did sign the rebellious, applications, the rebellion and the rebel, asking the people to try to finish their own passage from the, Al-Ittihadiyya Palace, from the constitutional, Supreme Constitutional Court, to the extent of, segregating and isolating judges and men of law from getting into their own posts to assume their own jobs, actually, just by way of trying to alternate them with members from their own band group. A sort of a thing that was to be, in the history of the Egyptian law, a sort of an infringement upon the secrecy and the privacy and the sacredness, actually, of the law, so to speak, to be adapted and to be integrated almost on all the levels of the society. One of their major, acts of savagery, I would say, was to be represented during the celebration of the 6th of October War, when the late Morsi, side by side with his own assassins, with his own people, so to speak, actually would ascend, the first or the frontage seats in the stadium as VIPs, as receiving a VIP treatment and red carpet treatment, and in the meantime, assuming the place of the high authorities and the society. Despite the fact that people are very much, annoyed by that sort of ominous appearance of those killers, of those assassins. Again, one of the, most savage acts that was to be represented was during the allocation of governors in Egypt. To still remember the governor of Luxor, was being appointed despite the fact that his own criminal history was to represent that he is one of the assassins of late President, Mohamed Sadat. To the extent that, Morsi himself did select his old wagon, his old car, the car of, late Mohamed Sadat, to be roaming and to be revolving around the whole stadium in a sort of a tour that would undertake and would represent and would bespeak of the sort of the vengeance and the atrocities and the sort of the act of bloodshed that goes into the acts and their own veins, actually, since quite a long period of time. So that's why, to my own understanding, the deed came to rule for about, as you have just said at the very beginning, about 500 years, for the suppression and oppression of almost all the levels and all the classes of the Egyptian people, to the segregation and isolation of almost, those loyal and those chauvinistic and those very much loyal figures to their own state. And one act also of his own, savagery, I would say, was represented during the massacre of Rafah the first, of which he immediately would force Field Marshal Tantawi to forced retirement, just by way of expelling those very good loyal figures from the state to try to toy with and to try to harp on his own instinctives and his own desires and needs of supplementing, of ascertaining the fact that he would like to be just a president from the very beginning till the very end. And even after, the second massacre of Rafah, the same Morsi actually did utter some scandalous words, inducing, the soldiers to try to save the lives of both the captivated ones and the, and those who are to be captives, the, the oppressors and the suppressors and all those people to safeguard the lives of both figures, both types of people, representing in the real sense of the word, in straightforward and very much direct words, his own sense of belonging to the terrorist group, and his own sense of admiration, if not sense of adoration, so to speak, of their own activities, of their own atrocities, of their own, demolishing intentions of almost all the infrastructure as much as the Egyptian people. One thing that couldn't be forgiven, actually, from the past, the present, and even the future history, is the Agora Islands sort of plight, the sort of his own association and his own collaboration within what was commonly regarded as a sort of a treasury in the history of the Egyptian, political scene, which is being denied by late Mohamed Sadat during the early 70s, when propagated and rejuvenated again to the political scene by late Mr. President Mohamed Hosni Mubarak. It was to be denied to a greater extent, but once it did come actually to his own period of reign, to his own tenure, he readily would endorse the fact that almost, the northern part of Sinai should be replaced, about 750 kilometers and turned for to be, given to the Israeli people in turn for part of the Nakab desert. A sort of a thing that was to be denied on the ground of its being by His Own Excellency Mr. Fattah al-Sisi, to the extent of, attracting the attention and drawing the attention of King Abdel of Jordan, to deny that sort of proposal to a great extent. That's why the Israeli people felt that they are to be cornered to a great extent. In the meantime, their own dream and aspiration of achieving their own kingdom that would extend from Euphrates to the Nile to the Euphrates would seem to be quite demolished at the ground of the realistic manipulation and very much resourceful manner of Mr. President Fattah al-Sisi. That's why, I mean, almost all his own agendas and the agendas of all these terrorist groups came to be quite flagrantly discovered, to publicly publicized to the ordinary single individual Egyptian people who are quite aware of how ferocious those people seem to be. That's why when they call for...
Yes, but speaking about the Palestinian cause in specific, because we have seen today the speech made by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi speaking about the gains, the achievements of the June 30th revolution, about the Palestinian cause and the stance of Egypt, the noble and the honorable stance of Egypt not to be liquidating the Palestinian cause, as well as the internal discussions about the prices, about the new government, and all this and more was encapsulated in one speech by President al-Sisi. We'll be having a quick break for the upcoming report, and when we return, we will be taking your opinion about this speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Doctor, we'll be having the upcoming report about the gains of the June 30th revolution once again, so stay tuned.
11 years ago, the 30th of June revolution marked the start of development revolution in which new methods and ideas were launched in managing the country's resources and boost national mega projects. This revolution represents the largest practical application of thinking outside the box. This was reflected in the financial, economic and social indicators and is reflected in the data of the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics. President Fattah al-Sisi assumed office in June 2014. He was keen to build a new Egypt and has filled the capital and other governorates and new cities with seemingly endless construction work and other development projects that directly touched their citizens' lives. In the wake of the 30th of June revolution and with the stability of the security and political conditions, the return of foreign investments again, as well as national projects that attracted more than 5 million workers, the total unemployment rates decreased and reached 7.7% among males in rural areas, reached 2.9%. As for females, it was 16.3% among rural females and 28.4% among urban females. Regarding power and electricity, Egypt has adopted a policy of diversifying energy production sources, which resulted in an increase in production capacities during the period 2013 to 2017 by 70%. Investments in the electricity sector reached £22.3 billion, resulting in an improvement in Egypt's ranking in international reports. It rose from 145th place among 185 to 77 from 109. So the state has moved up 68 places over the past 5 years. Among the most important projects that the state has given great attention is the housing sector, as well as development of unsafe slums and unplanned areas in order to provide decent life for citizens. More than 500,000 housing units were implemented within the social housing project for the youth and low-income segment at a cost of £51 billion. The agriculture sector is one of the pillars of the Egyptian economy, with more than 25% of the Egyptian population working in it, in addition to being the main garner of Egyptian food security. Therefore, it was a primary goal in the eyes of Egyptian institutions to increase the agricultural area. The state has overcome the challenges in this sector through good management of available resources and allocation of new areas to agricultural patch. Methods also include relying on agricultural wastewater treatment plants as well as reclamation of desert in light of state projects in Sinai South Valley, Toshka East Oinat and 1.5 million Fadans project, which all increased the cultivated areas for the strategic products. The agricultural area in Egypt has now become 9.4 million fadans. This contributed to the occurrence of self-sufficiency in some agricultural commodities and the increase in agricultural exports, which amounted to 3.5 million tons during the first half of the year. Turning on to the health sector is one of the first and most prominent files on the agenda of the political leadership and state institutions whose feasibility appeared during the pandemic. The strategic plan for the development of the sector was based on several axes, including increasing the number of hospitals beds and developing existing hospitals, as well as raising efficiency of the technical level and medical care through training medical cadres from doctors and nurses abroad, launching a comprehensive health insurance system in which the origin is the family and not the individual.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me for today Dr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much once again for being with us tonight. We're speaking about the speech of His Excellency President Abdel al-Sisi earlier today, speaking about the gains, the achievements, what happened during the day of June the 30th in 2013, how the Egyptians proved to the world that we have determination to be changing the status quo for Egypt, how we stood up to terrorism as well in the years after that. And nowadays the Egyptian stance, the honorable Egyptian stance to be defending the rights of Palestinians to exist and to be having a two-state solution as well. The noble stance of Egypt to defending the Palestinian cause, and quite finally the internal discussions about what is going on, the new cabinet, that the new cabinet will be having a top priority of the benefit of the citizen, and of course to be speaking about the prices, how the prices have affected the livelihoods of the Egyptians, and that the Egyptians, all they want is to be having better futures for their children. How did you see the whole speech of President Sisi?
Well, His Excellency's speech today was very much, resourceful and very much straightforward and very much beneficial in the interests of almost all the Egyptians.
Yes.
In a large number of dimensions. Well, let us shed a little light first on the sort of sense of safety and security and the sort of the peace of almost all the Egyptians are, enjoying nowadays after the previous years of, calamities and, dark pessimistic aspect of the Muslim Brotherhood. And in the meantime, one of the highest gains, perhaps, of the revolution of the 3rd of June is, the sense of dignity and respectability on the part of almost all the Egyptians, to the extent that we are in a position actually to speak for ourselves,
yes,
as much as for the other people, and in the meantime to try to raise a sort of a very strong voice in the international community, representing our own endorsement, our own sort of helping hand for the Palestinians. Egypt was commonly regarded the first country to transmit medical aids, as much as to try to publicize publicly in the international community the simple right of the Egyptians of not to be relocated, of not to be displaced, of not to be forcibly leave their own homelands actually, and to find an alternative homeland for themselves. Egypt was almost the first country, despite the fact that it seems to be the abode state and the abiding place for almost all the refugees. More than 10 million of refugees are living not in tents, not in decent places, but as much as an ordinary Egyptian people would live. But in addition to this one main fundamental fact, one major dimension of which His Own Excellency is very much concentrating in today's speech was the selection of a new cabinet, of a new future for almost all the modest Egyptians, of representing the struggle of awareness, that very much illuminative part, illuminating fact that he would like almost all the Egyptians to be quite aware of how the awareness of the besieging danger, of the external threats of Egypt, not only from the dimension of Libya, but almost from Gaza Strip, from Sudanese territorial lands, and from the possibility of the Ethiopians of refilling for a 5th time, actually, the Renaissance Dam. and of representing in the meantime the sort of the threats that would come from almost all the dimensions. It is in the right time actually to talk about these trifling small aspects of lack of electricity, of shortage of food, because safety and security would seem to be one of the highest gains actually that almost all the Egyptians would pass through.
Yes, Dr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
My pleasure, sir.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
جاوبت بحسن نية الجملة هي تحيا مصر قالوا لي ارسم